Hey guys, welcome back to another Gonk Gang video, and today Sam and Al are going to be continuing their journey through Secrets of Power with the Cunning aspect pairings. And make sure you check out the other videos in the playlist as we look at the other colours and the leaders of the set. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Definitely a good card, and then you've been talking about Vader Yellow a lot, so why don't you take this one away?
Yeah, Screeching TIE Fighter, one cost 2/1. On attack, you can choose a ground unit, and if you do, it loses its keywords. So, this card is. Bear with me a second. Looks like my earphones are losing battery quickly. So, this card is really good in Vader 4. It might look a bit unassuming, but it turns out turning off your opponent's restore or raid on a spy or whatever, it actually adds up a lot. And just having another turn 1, 2/1 you can play in space is great. So, yeah. The turn 1 plays for Vader of 4 have got a lot better this set, which is a big boost for him.
Yes.
But outside of that deck, it's not playable, so it's just a 2-star card.
Yep, agreed. 2-star card, absolute all-star in Vader 4, but not usable anywhere else. But like you said, he got a big boost this set, I think. Mainly his turn 1 just got significantly better. This compared to the Forged Starfighter from last set is night and day. This is infinitely better. Next we've got Garandon, or Garinden, not sure. 2 cost 1/3 Underworld unit. When played, name a card, look at an opponent's hand and discard a card with that name from it. And he also has Plot. I do like this card a lot. It's very reminiscent of Bazine. It's kind of like, I think it's worse than Bazine because Bazine obviously always hits the card you want to hit, whereas he takes some guesswork, but maybe with Disclose around and other, maybe working alongside Bazine, you'll know what cards are in their hand anyway. But ultimately, I think he's a pretty strong card, and of course, he's got a low opportunity cost of plotting, and also if you play him without plot and get the card, it's still really good as well, so I ultimately gave him 2 stars.
Yeah, same. I think you've covered it really well in Garinden. I think he's got a lot of potential. I don't know if he's better or worse than Bazine.
Yeah.
I think obviously he's got pros and cons, but yeah, I think Bazine was a solid card and he will be as well.
Yeah, agreed. Next we've got General Grievous, Scuttling to Safety, a 2 cost 3/3 ground unit, Separatist Official with Hidden, and when he's attacked, he actually returns to your hand. First of all, really cool card in my opinion. Really unique effect. Has Hidden, has good stats and stuff. But I think in practice, this colour combination is really weak, and no decks will want to play him because he's not Underworld, and he really doesn't do a ton. And if you attack into him with like a 1 cost or like a spy, you kind of remove him from the board for free, and then your opponent has to play him again. So as much as I like this card, it's a 1-star.
Yeah, great if you're going first, abysmal if you're going second,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, the peak of him is just a Battlefield Marine with Hidden, which isn't even that good. So yeah,
Agreed.
The card's good.
But I will say that his Prestige art is absolute fire. So we'll come to that. Next we've got Darth Treyer, the Lord of Betrayal, a 2/5 Force Sith. And on attack, you may ready a non-leader unit. That's the first time we've seen that kind of text. Obviously, this means readying a leader while it's still in the leader zone. She's a 2/5, which isn't great stats, but it's not the worst either. Force and Sith are 2 relevant traits, mainly the Force one. And of course, there is the potential to combo off with the Grand Inquisitor combo with the Tragedy of Darth Plagueis with this. But I don't think that's going to be a real deck, if I'm honest. I think that's like absolute magical Christmas land. But I don't think it'll happen. But I do see this working quite nicely, personally, in Talzin Yellow because she really struggled for 3-drops. The Force is generated on attack again from Treyer, and you can deal out basically 2 -1s that turn. So not a bad card. Definitely worth the legendary status in my opinion as well for a very unique effect. So 2 stars.
Yeah, in agreement there completely. I think the combo version isn't going to end up being good, but it's cool that it exists. And then obviously she's actually a decent card in other decks, in other versions anyway.
Yep, agreed. The Lurking Snub, why don't you do this one?
Yeah, so Lurking Snub Fighter, 3 cost 2/3 when played, you can exhaust a unit, it's a space unit, and it has plot, so pretty similar to the Death Space Skirmisher. It loses 1 power over Death Space Skirmisher, which did see a little bit of play.
It did, yeah.
But instead of that, it does mean you don't have a restriction on having to have other space units, which isn't really a restriction, and then you get plot instead. The card's actually not terrible. I've considered toying with it in Vader 4. I think it's like okay, but that's why I've given it 2 stars. But I do think at the end of the day, it's probably not going to quite be good enough to see play in many decks because, when you play it with plot, it's not amazing. When you play it raw, it's pretty bad. So it's just not quite there. I think it needs an extra point of stats to be like a playable card. But yeah. I think it might end up appearing somewhere.
Yep, couldn't agree more. I think that's basically summed up everything. I think it has one application of Vader 4. I mean, you could maybe try this in Cad Bane, but I don't really want to be paying 3 on the turn I bring out Cad Bane to do this. But it is Underworld, and the exhaust effect is nice. He's played Cartel Spacer for a long time, but that might have been just out of necessity, to be honest, because he liked 2 drops in space. So a very simple card, but effective. Next, we've got the Soulless one, Swift and Agile, a 3/3 space unit. On attack, you may disclose yellow villain, and if you do, ready 2 resources. So, I mean, we've seen this effect before. Very, very strong effect from the Boba Fett leader that is the very first ban of the game. But this is a very understated space unit. 3/3 for 3 with an effect that's only on attack, so no immediate effect on the game. Separatist isn't relevant tag. But if it does go off, I do think it is a strong ability, don't get me wrong. I just don't know if it's ever going to go off, that's the problem. But I did give it 2 stars, that I think it might be irrelevant at some point.
Yeah, I think it's kind of Christmas land to expect
Yes.
this to ever go off. The difference with Boba was that he deployed partway through a turn, so you'd spend resources, you'd then flip him, and then you'd get the resources back. With this one, if it survives to attack, which is unlikely with its
Yeah.
bad stats, but if it does, then you have to spend resources first and then attack, and usually you want to attack first. So yeah, the order gets all wrong with this card. It means you're going to have to then risk your opponent, even if you have initiative, you're going to play a card first, and then your opponent has another opportunity to then deal with the Soulless one before you can get them ready anyway. So I think the card's pretty bad.
Yep, absolute fair points there. Don't disagree with anything you said. So, next we've got the Trade Federation Delegates, a 5 cost 3/4 Republic official. When played, create 2 spies. This just seems like draft filler to me. It's like the Orator, but costs 2 more and makes a little bit more and has slightly better stats. But for 5, this seems like a terrible deal in my opinion.
Yeah, if Mon Mothma allowed you to play non-villainy officials out of aspect, then I would actually play it in the now
agreed.
version, but you can't. So
yep, agreed. Grand Moff Tarkin, go ahead.
Yeah, so Grand Moff Tarkin taking Krennic's achievement. 6 cost 2/6 ground unit. When played, take control of an enemy non-leader vehicle unit, and when this unit leaves play, the owner takes control of it again. I've given this 1 star. A lot of people I think are pretty high on this card, but honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like there are way too many decks that don't have vehicles for you to take, in which case this is terrible. And even if you do take a vehicle, I mean, a lot of the time it's a piloted vehicle, so you can't take it anyway, but even if you do take it, if they have some answer for Tarkin, then you do get it back anyway, right? So, I mean, it doesn't like exhaust it or anything, you just get it straight back ready if you didn't get a chance to attack with it. So, I think while there are very specific situations where it can be good, like if your opponent was going to deploy their Boba onto 1 space unit, you stole it first, that would be pretty good. But most of the time, your opponent's got multiple space units to deploy on, or they'll have some answer to this, or again, you're against an opponent who doesn't even have a vehicle.
Yeah.
So,
I think ultimately, I mean, it's a strong effect on a body, which is nice. You get a body with this, so it's like kind of like a change of heart, but only for vehicles. But you get a 2/6 body. I think Palp Yellow might like this card. I think it seems decent in that kind of deck, maybe. But I think it does fall short of probably seeing much play at the moment, thanks to Change of Heart still being in the game for that deck. And also, I think it's only really good, like you said, against Boba, and it can't be piloted for a leader. And then Admiral Pier as well, it does counter that quite nicely, as they'll struggle to get rid of the 2/6 if they don't have a unit to barrage onto. So I think it has some niche use, but then again, for 1 more, you get Hyperspace Disaster. That might just be better.
True. Although different colours, so...
Yeah. Yep. Grand Admiral Thrawn, another legend here, 7 cost 8/7. When played, an opponent may choose a non-leader they control. If they do, this unit captures it, and if they don't, he comes in ready. And when defeated, a friendly unit captures an enemy non-leader in the same arena. So quite a lot going on here, but basically he either captures a unit or comes in ready as an 8/7, and when he dies, another unit gets to get a free capture on the way out. He's doing a lot for his cost, in my opinion. I just don't know if he does any of it particularly well, is because obviously they get the choice every time. You're going to get the worst effect. But I do think both effects are pretty good, unless they have a trash unit in play, basically. But it might see some fringe play, especially after rotation. I think this colour combo has like nothing to finish the game. So maybe it starts to make some relevance then. Kind of an alright card. I gave it 2 stars, but you gave it 1, so maybe you've got some different opinions on it.
Yeah, I just feel as though... I mean, I'm really not high on Cunning villainy at all, especially slow.
I don't blame you.
I think it's a trash, the slow ones, and like Thrawn only fits in those. Like, yes, he might go in Palp Yellow, but like, do we really care that much about Palp Yellow? I really don't.
Palp Yellow already has like crazy 7 drops as well.
Yeah, so I just think 7's a lot for this guy and what he does. He might sneak into attack, but I don't think he's going to make waves like Cad Bane did, for example.
Yeah, Cad Bane seems a lot better. Like I said, maybe post-rotation we see a bit more Thrawn, but not a great card right now. But I don't hate it either. Fully armed and operational. I was quite high on this card when it got revealed, actually, but I think, once again, I've got to jump through too many hoops to just do like one thing. So I ultimately gave it 1 star. It's if opponent attacked your base during their previous action this phase, play a unit from your hand and give it ambush. and it has plot as well. So obviously you want to try and do it with a very impactful ambush unit like Vader potentially. The blue Vader that is from last set, but I just think I'm jumping through too many hoops again.
Oh yeah, it's so much worse than time intervention. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
The card's not good at all.
Arrest, 2 cost, a law event. Your base captures an enemy non-leader, and at the start of the regroup phase, its owner rescues it. I mean, very unique effect. We've not had a base that can capture before. Definitely, basically just removes a unit from play for the whole turn. There's nothing they can really do to get it back unless you, of course, die, and then you would just lose the game anyway. So I think it's a unique enough effect to be considered, especially after No Good to Me Dead rotates. And plus, it also helps you get past Sentinels. But once again, Cunning Villainy is very weak. But I think it's a unique enough effect, especially in those colours, to be considered.
The reason I don't like it is because No Good to Me Dead's biggest application is against leaders, and this
Yeah,
doesn't hit leaders. So while yes, it's better against like Sentinels and in a few niche situations, it's usually a lot worse than No Good to Me Dead. And No Good to Me Dead doesn't see like that much play
yeah,
anyway
yeah.
because of the weak colour that it's in. So yeah, again, post rotation, who knows? But right now, I don't see this card seeing play.
Yep, cool effect though. You get to put a card under your base, so that's definitely worth talking about. No One Ever Knew, 2 cost trick for each official exhaust an enemy unit. This seems like absolute trash filler,
Terrible,
probably just for Slime or in
terrible.
1-star alert. Furtive Handmaiden, 1 cost 2/2. On attack, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw a card. Not an awful card in my opinion, but I just don't even think Padme plays this, and this is probably her best application, so 1-star.
Yeah, exactly. I think same here. I think if she goes in Padme, it's probably a 2, but from what I can tell, it hasn't gone in Padme so
Yeah,
far and doesn't go in. So if it doesn't go in Padme, it's not going anywhere.
agreed. You can take Bail Organa. He's a good one.
Yeah, Bail Organa responding to Catastrophe. 2 cost 2/4 Republic official ground unit. On attack, you can discard a card from your hand, and if you do, you create a spy token. So you get hemorrhaging card advantage, but you are getting tempo with spies, and he's got a great stat line as a 2 cost
Yep.
2/4. This card's fantastic, 3-star for me. Another standout performer as a 2-drop once again. I think he is a lot weaker than the others. Karras is a lot better than him, I think, and I also think Mina's pretty good compared to him as well. But I do think that, especially because you can use it in Padme and get the ping effect, which is great. I think Sabine Yellow just plays this. I think pretty much any deck that can play this probably plays it, including Mon
Yeah.
Mothma.
Yeah, I see no reason to not be playing this in any deck that can play it and wants to be somewhat aggressive. It's like part of this like turn 1 plays that Padme got that were just insane. Between this and Karis Nemik and the Warrior of Clan Ordo and Faith in Your Friends, she got really really stacked 2-drops. So I think Bale's an absolute all-star in this set, a real 3-star card.
Yeah.
Next, we've got the Bravo Squadron Fighter, a 2-cost 2/3 Saboteur in space. I just don't think this is very impressive. Early Sentinels in space aren't really relevant, and this only does 2 damage anyway, so it doesn't feel like it's doing much. So 1-star.
Indeed.
Go on, you can take the Senator.
Junior Senator, 2 cost 3/2. When played, you can return an upgrade that costs 3 or less to its owner's hand. A lot worse than Outer Rim Constable. Obviously, not every deck can play Outer Rim Constable because it's red, so sometimes you can only play this if it's your only
Yep.
way to deal with upgrades. But again, it doesn't really deal with them. If it's like an Entrench, they can replay it. If it's a General's Blade, yes, they have to spend the resources, but it's still, they get to replay it. Obviously, it can ping off a shield in the same way, which is nice, on experience token. But yeah, I don't think there's any reason to play Junior Senator, especially with all of the. I mean, the most common stat line we see from Turn 1 players is either a 2/4, a 2/2 shielded, or a 2/5, and it trades unfavourably against all of those.
Yep, I think you've got some absolutely fair points there. I mean, upgrades are strong and they are played everywhere, so I do think he has some application, especially if you're locked into these colours, if you don't have access to red. But then again, you do have access to Bamboozle in these colours, so maybe my 2-star rating was slightly high, but I don't think he's bad at all. I think he has applications, especially against stuff like the Gungi into General's Blade. But then again, they'll just trade the Gungi into him and Gungi lives, so it's looking pretty bad for the Senator, I'll agree. Anakin Skywalker. 3-cost 3/4, Secret Husband. He has Hidden, and if you control Padme as your leader, he gains Raid 2. So, I mean, I think in Padme you just play 3 of these, no doubt, and then everywhere else you can't play him. It's that simple. He's really, really good in Padme, a 5/4. He hits like a truck. He has not very relevant traits for that deck because it's not a traits specific deck. But I think in Padme you're playing 3 of these, in my opinion. You've given him just 2
Yeah, I
stars.
mean, Yeah, so I've given him 2. I mean, he probably could have been a 3 because in Padme is a really strong card. I just thought that we don't know how good Padme is going to
Yeah.
be, and like even in Padme, I don't think he's going to be like the best card in the deck or anything. He is at
No,
the end
no.
of the day just a 3/4 with raid 2, but he probably should have got 3 honestly because I think Padme is probably going to end up being tier 1, and I think he is like in the top half of cards in that deck. So yeah, I think that by default makes him a 3-star. So I agree with your rating rather than mine.
Cool.
I don't like I do like the flavor win. The flavor win's cool. He obviously he's married or whatever, but I don't like this like thing of like while you control this lead as a leader, or basically only being able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
run one deck. We saw it with like Boba's armor and Fet Spray and all these cards, and I really don't like that because
I agree.
it would have been nice to like because the thing is they try and make it a bit wider by saying you can control Padme as a unit, but that's never going to happen. You know what I mean? You can't like you
There's only
can't
one
play a
Padme
card in a
unit,
deck
isn't
that
there, from Twilight, and it
yeah.
sucks. It's the 1/4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you just can't. You know, what I mean, even if there were more, like it never works like that, right? Like with Boba's armor, you couldn't play in a deck that only had Boba unit. You needed the leader as well. So yeah, it's I don't like this. I don't like that style of card design, but yeah, the card's pretty strong.
Yep, agreed. Rebel Propagandist, 3 cost 2/4 Rebel Official. When played and when defeated, give another friendly unit +1 and Saboteur for this phase. This seems really quite overcosted for what it's doing. I mean, we had BD1 doing this last set, the exact same effect for 1. And I'd rather be paying that than a 2/4 that kind of does nothing if you don't have a unit on the board, so I gave this 1 star.
Yep, same.
Tala Durith, one of the first plot cards we saw, a 3 cost 3/3, and each other friendly unit gains hidden, and then obviously because you plot this out, it would give your leader hidden. Not completely irrelevant effect, but I feel like other than plotting her, she's horrible. Like a 3 cost 3/3 that gives you other units hidden does nothing, she's understated, and it's not like hidden is the best thing in the world anyway, so ultimately I think she's a 1 star.
Agreed. Yeah, she's one of the worst plot cards in the set. One of the only, there's only a few of them. I think I have no chance of seeing
Yeah,
play, and she's one of them.
cool. The Blue Ace, I mean, you're the Kazuda guy, take it away.
Well, I don't think it's good in Kazuda. So, unfortunately, on the Kazuda flip turn, you need a vehicle to deploy onto that's already ready. So you don't really want to play this. You want to play hand hate. So I think, ironically, it's pretty crap in Kazuda. But I think outside of Kazuda, it's a pretty reasonable card. I
Yeah.
think a way to stop space aggro is pretty good. You can just ready the exhausted unit you're ambushing into usually, and then defeat it immediately anyway. So the downside's not super high. But yeah, despite the fact that it's obviously designed to be a Kazuda card, actually I don't think it does go in that deck, which is kind of funny. But yeah, pretty good card.
Yeah, I mean, like, just well statted. 4 cost 4/5 ambush in space. I mean, a 4 cost 4/4 ambush on the ground was good, so this is pretty good stats. Although, obviously, ambushing space is more niche, so just a 2-star rating. Obi-Wan Kenobi, well, you've given this guy an award, so why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I've given a demerit. So I think it's the most overrated card of the set. I gave him 2 stars. Honestly, I could even see going down to 1, right?
Yep.
Because this card was so hyped. I was I think it was at a PQ when it was revealed or something like that. And the number of people who came to me and said, oh no, I was at I think it was Bilbao when it was revealed. And people were saying, oh, this card's going to be so good. What a great... Even Enigma members, they're like, oh, this legendary is so good. And I'm like, this guy he's just Ezra. But
He's
worse,
calling out
right?
Enigma
Like,
now.
yeah, I know, right? Enigma, they're terrible. This guy's he's like Ezra, but worse, right? Ezra sees almost no play,
Yeah.
and he's a 3/4 for 3. A 4/5 for 4 is basically the same stat line, but again, it's scaled up, so in my opinion, it makes it worse. And yes, there are more good 3 drops than 4 drops, so it's a less competitive slot, but still. And then he's drawing cards from your opponent's deck. Now, obviously, if you draw the Overrun Barrage and you play it, yeah, that feels great. But more likely, you're drawing a card that doesn't synergize with your deck at all. You're against a control deck, and it's not a good card for you to play, or you're against an aggro deck, and So at the end of the day, like drawing cards from your own deck is almost always better than drawing cards from your opponent's deck because you've designed your deck to include cards you want to
Yep.
include in it. So yeah, bypassing the aspect penalties, obviously, like I said, sometimes, occasionally, it can lead to a better card in that situation, but it very rarely does. So I think a card to me is worse than Ezra, and Ezra already doesn't see play. Like, why would this card see any play really? So you might sneak into a deck here or there, which is why I gave him 2, but I think the card's pretty trash.
Yeah, I mean, he's in colours that don't even really care about the force tag, in my opinion. Like, it just feels completely irrelevant. Not the worst stats in the world, but I just don't think he does anything. He might as well be a vanilla most of the time. I do think I'll give him an award for the most Magic the Gathering card. This is literally like a very
Yeah.
Magic effect of playing their cards and ignoring the colours. But I completely agree. This could have been easily a 1-star card. Giving it 2 to be cautious, but I do think it's overrated as hell. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 cost Emissaries from Ryloth, a 4/6. When played, give an enemy unit -3/-0 for this phase. This is a draft bomb. Other than that, absolute trash.
Correct.
Lightmaker, a 5 cost legendary unit. There it is again. I have an idea. A 5 cost 3/4 in space with raid 4. That's a very high raid amount, tied with the E-Web Blaster from the starter deck. And when defeated, choose an arena and exhaust each enemy unit in that arena. Um, I don't think it's a horrible card, but I don't think it's very good either. Like, it's very understated. If it never gets to attack, I mean, I guess it has an effect, but they'll just wait to kill it till the end of their turn, and then they'll just like open fire it or take down or ambush a very middling unit into it. It just seems pretty underpowered for me. But at least it does have a when defeated, and it isn't just a stat stick. So, I mean, I just gave it 1 star overall, though.
Yeah, a lot of people are quite high on this, and I might end up regretting giving it such a low
Yeah,
rating.
yeah.
I gave it a 1 star as well, but on paper the card does I think look quite good. Like 7 power on the attack is
Yeah,
quite a
seven's a
lot.
big number.
I just feel like it's so easy to deal with. The when defeated really doesn't do very much. Sometimes yes, it will exhaust the unit, but I don't. A lot of the time, like the unit's attacked first anyway, or whatever. So yeah, I don't love the card. I think it's maybe you could argue it's a 2 star is a fairer rating for it, but I just what deck does it go in? Right?
That
Like
was
what
my
deck are
biggest
you playing
problem. I was
this?
just sat there thinking, like,
Yeah.
where would I put this? Like, do I put this in Han? No. Do I put it in Kazuda? No. Like the premier yellow decks, like they just Padme doesn't want this. Like, who wants
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Sabine Yellow plays this, but
Maybe.
probably not.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
not
don't
too
know.
sure here, but
Not a fan.
um, cool scene though. I'll give it that. Um, Hunter, a 6 cost 7/6 fringe clone, ground unit, saboteur on attack. If the defender is exhausted, it gets -4 for this attack. Absolutely awful. Probably
Yeah.
absolutely goated in sealed. 1 star.
hmm
Mando, why don't you take Mando?
Do I have to? The Mandalorian cleaning up Navarro, is that?
Yeah, yeah,
When
cleaning
this
up
unit
Navarro.
attacks and defeats a unit, you can choose an enemy non-leader unit and it captures it. It's got ambush, so obviously you'll play it on 8, ambush into something, defeat it, and then capture another opponent's unit and then win the game. Or more likely, you'll have died already because it's cost 8.
Yep,
So yeah, I
this
think 6 is not a great break point of that level anyway. It's already going to be damaged, so it's going to be a lot easier for your opponent to defeat once it's done the attack. But yeah, there's just better things to be doing.
the numbers seem all wrong on this card for me. Like 8 costs too much. It should have been like 7, or like if it's going to be 8, it should have had at least 7 attack for that good break point. I feel like it just
Mhm.
it some. I reckon at some point this card was good in testing, and then it just got like pushed one number wrong way, and then it became this pile of trash. Like comparing this to the 7 drop ambushes like Han and Qui-Gon, and like I'm not
Yeah,
even saying they're amazing, but this is so much worse.
it is. Agreed.
Um, 1 star each. Stolen Star Path. Attached unit gains on attack. Name a card. The defending player reveals their hand for each card in their hand with that name. Create a spy. I mean, it's a very low opportunity cost of 1 for +1/+1, and the upside's not bad. You know, you get a buff on your unit and you get a spy. I could see this working out in certain decks. Obviously, you've got to have hand information, as shooting blind with this feels pretty poor. But I think when it works, it's probably a 2 star card.
Yeah, I like this card a lot actually, only because the thing I didn't really consider when I first looked at the card, and the reason why I initially had it as a 1, is that you don't actually need the hand reveal necessarily because it reveals the hand itself.
Yeah,
So you'll
the
reveal
second
the hand
attack's
for the
better.
first. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
The second attack is a lot better. Now, obviously, there are some decks where if you're attacking your into your Sabine and you're going into 5 resources, it's pretty reasonable you can name Poe because if they have the Poe, you get the spy, and if they don't have the Poe, you're pretty happy anyway. So, as long as you've got a good knowledge of the game and your opponent's decks and what they
yeah,
can
yeah.
have, then I think this card, it's got a higher sort of skill cap that way. But yeah, I mean, again, in multiples or as soon as you've looked at your opponent's hand once, it gets so much easier to actually get this triggered. Which again, there's a bit of a mini game there. Your opponent can try and resource cards, but there's only so much they can do. At the end of the day, they don't want to have a handful of cards that aren't good for them. So yeah, really cool card, a lot cooler than like it might first appear. +1/+1 for 1 resource is terrible. I mean that snapshot reflex
Yeah,
hasn't seen playing God knows how long, and you get to attack with the unit there. But if you get 1 spy out of this, I think it's pretty good. And if you
yeah.
ever get more than that, I think the card's fantastic. So yeah, I think I could see the scene playing Padme. I don't know if it'll end up making the final 50 card deck, but I do think it has a chance of ending up in Padme and
Yep.
then in other decks as well.
Yeah, that's where I've tested it too. I threw it in Padme and it seemed half decent, so I think it's an alright
Plus, with all
card.
the disclose of the set,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does mean it's slightly easier to trigger this as
It
well,
might be
which is
at its
pretty good.
best right now while people are disclosing and stuff, and then it might fall
Mhm.
off later, but not a bad card in my opinion. Faith in your friends. I think you should take this one out.
Yeah, 2 cost Cunning Heroism event, search the top 3 cards of your deck for a card and draw it. Then you can disclose Cunning, 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 Heroism, Heroism, and if you do, you create 2 spy tokens. So I've given this
Okay.
the award of my silver award for the second strongest card in the set. 3 stars for each of us there. I think this card is absolutely bonkers. Now, of course, first of all, the caveat disclosing yellow, 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 white, white is actually somewhat difficult
That's
unless you're in a
harsh.
double cunning. Yeah, it's a hard, it's steep cost to make. However, in the right deck, and you can only put this in the right, you can't just stick this in some deck that doesn't use many cunning cards. You've got to put it in the right deck. But if you're in a double cunning, especially a double cunning heroism deck, or a deck that might be paired with Tarkin Town like Padme but doesn't actually use many red cards, then this card gets crazy. Because if you can meet this condition, and again, it's easier to do because you get to search the cards, right? So I've got 2 cunning and 2 heroism, but I'm missing a cunning, an extra cunning card. I'll play Faith in the Friends and search for that cunning card from the top 3 because it doesn't really matter which card you pick. You can just resource it anyway if you want to. So the card itself feeds into its own disclosed cost. So you do have to do a bit of work, but if you can play this card, especially on turn 1, by any point in the game, and you get to draw a card, have some card selection, and create 2 spy tokens for 2, I think that is unbelievable. Like, again, talking about powerful 2 drops, this card is crazy. So, in Padme you get to ping as well, so you can open with this, ping your opponent's unit, Tarkin Town it, and you've got 2 spies. They've got nothing, and you've drawn a card. You're not even a card down, and then that then sets up for a sanction of shuttle next turn if you want to as well, which is just absolute bonkers. Like, this card is just so good. I think this card is probably the highest potential of any card in the game on turn 1 to
Yep.
just be insane.
Yeah, I think
So
this
good.
is like the new high roll, right? This if you pull this off and you get to kill their turn 1, you get a good card at your top 3 to set up your next turn. You make 2 spies, like you are in such a good position. And as we said, spies are even better when the board's clear because they don't just like immediately die. I think this card is absolutely insane, and I'm not surprised you gave it your silver award. I think it doesn't have a ton of application. It probably only goes into a few decks. Obviously, double yellow will probably play this, and then Padme will definitely play this. But when you do this effect, you are just so happy. It's a crazy good card.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you play it in Sabe or maybe you play it in Kazuda or whatever. But
Yep, or
even
hand
if it was
one.
just or hand one, yeah, for sure. But even if it's just Padme, I think this might be the strongest or the highest win rate card in the deck
I
for
would not
Padme.
be surprised.
In
Yep.
especially on turn 1. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
whenever I'm playing against Padme, if I see this turn 1, I just feel like, oh, it's just a groan. I'm like, what am I going to do from here on out? It's
Yes.
going to be so tough to get back onto this board.
Yep. This card just does it all really. And the fact that it even has synergy with like what I consider the best leader in the set, what we both consider the best leader, just pushes it over that edge. And I am not surprised to see this card gaining an award here. Very, very strong when it happens. Moving on, 4 cost double yellow, Libertine under new ownership, a 3/7 space unit, quite an interesting stat line, and it gets +1 attack for each captured card that it's guarding, and when played, choose an enemy unit and a non-leader friendly unit. The enemy unit captures the friendly unit. So I'm sure you all followed that really close because it's really easy to understand what this card does. This is obviously only playable in DJ. It's completely unplayable anywhere else. And I think DJ's a 1-star leader, so this is a 1-star card. It
Sums it up
definitely does what he
perfectly.
wants to do, though. I mean, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
it does. Funnily enough, if you play this card on an empty board, it captures your opponent's unit captures this unit. So you can't just play
Oh,
outright.
wow, I didn't even
Because
realise that,
yeah, so choose an enemy unit, and let me just read it myself. Choose an enemy unit and a non-leader friendly unit.
which
So
would
it's
be
this. The
itself.
enemy unit. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, you can't play it on an empty board, which again just adds to the hilariousness of how bad this card is. But yeah,
Yep,
absolute
wow.
trash card. Yeah.
Absolutely trash. I mean, if you live the DJ dream and then you give them like a 1-drop that was guarding a bunch of stuff, because obviously this will give it away immediately, and then this thing gets bigger and like, yeah, I mean, if you want to live in that land, go crazy. And let's be honest, everyone's going to at least try it. But I just think, especially because it's just like a unique as well, and like there's only 3 in the deck, like there's no way it's good. A-Wing, simple card here. 1 cost, 1/2 space unit with raid 1. I think it has 1 application, which is probably just Vader 4. A really great 1-drop for this deck. Definitely much better than the stuff it was already running, like the Forged Starfighter. 2 health is a massive upgrade over 1. So alongside the Screeching TIE Fighter, I think this really boosts up the deck. And the deck was already doing somewhat decent if it had fallen off a tiny bit. So 2 stars for Vader from me.
Yeah, it might even go in. I don't know. There's probably another deck or two here and there that it
Yeah,
might go
sure.
into, but yeah, as you said, perfectly for Vader because the problem with you either have the option of playing like the two power one health ships that get defeated by pings, or the two health but one power ships which don't put enough pressure on. But this does
Yes.
both, so yeah, it's probably not the best one drop, but it's one of the better one drops in Vader 4, and it definitely goes in.
Yep, and I'm sure another deck will probably pick this up at one point. If it maybe if like Sabine Yellow, like you said, becomes a thing and it wants double one drop, it's a fine ship. Um, Skyhopper Canyon Runner, a one cost 1/4. It looks like a space unit, but it is a ground unit. But it is still a vehicle, which matters a lot. So I gave it 2 stars, as I think this is another one drop Vader could play.
Yeah, so a pretty exciting card. I think this gets the award for the most confusing card because like it takes until you realize it's ground, you're playing this in space every time. You'll
100%
go,
of the time.
oh, like if you go to pre-release and you pick this card, you just slam it into space. I mean, how
At
many
my
turns is it
pre-release
before
today, I
someone
corrected
realizes?
someone as they played it straight into space, and I went, "I'm really sorry, but that's a ground unit."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it really does like Space Unit, which is kind of frustrating. But anyway, they should have just made sure there was no sky or space
Yeah,
visible on the card at all. But yeah, actually a really, really good card for Vader.
yeah.
Now, slightly awkward in the fact that it doesn't get buffed by Victor Squadron Leader because it buffs space units, not vehicles,
Oh, okay.
and it doesn't give the buff to Clone Combat Squadron because that gets buffs from space units, not vehicles. So it is slightly awkward in that way, but it does a lot of things. One, it lets you put 4 health space unit. Excuse me, not space, a 4 health
Whoa.
unit a 4 health unit into play on turn one, which Vader couldn't otherwise do, which is great because it means that you can survive a lot more things. It also means that if your opponent fights you in space early, which Vader often runs into that problem, and that's how he loses games. It does mean that now because you've got this on the ground, you can keep attacking base with it for one every turn and get the tie tokens because that ability, Vader's ability, relies on a vehicle attacking, not a space unit. So yeah, it does keep generating the tokens, which is really nice. Sometimes you go double 1/4 on the ground, and it's actually quite hard for your opponent to deal with that. Also, when you've got one of these on the ground and your opponent hasn't managed to defeat it yet as Vader, you can then deploy Vader onto it, which means that you have an option to avoid hyperspace disaster. So if you know your opponent's running that card and they're going to defeat you with it, you can
Great
actually get
call.
Vader onto the
Yeah.
ground. You can get Vader onto the ground while still generating the 2 tokens, because normally, obviously, you can always deploy Vader onto the ground as a 5/6, but this way you get to deploy him as a 6/9 and get the 2 tie tokens as well. So yeah, really great applications in Vader 4. Probably doesn't go in any other deck, but fantastic for that deck. It's one of the key one drops, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Vader has absolutely feasted this set with his turn one plays. He's got 3 brand new ones, all better than the ones he's had before, so it's looking good for Vader. We've got the 2 cost 2/4 space unit, the Emissary's Sheathapede. I think this is definitely an Al card, so why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so 2 costs 2 for when defeated. Each opponent may ready a resource. You probably do play Kazuda. I honestly haven't looked at Kazuda very much this set
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I'm sick of the deck. So ultimately, like I don't know if it goes in Kazuda or not. It probably does end up making the cut because even though it's worse than Corporate Defense Shuttle because it's obviously not a 3/5, it's a 2/4. It does mean that you can actually deploy Kazuda onto this, unlike that one. So it's probably a good middle ground where
Yeah.
it's got more stats than Fireball, more defensive stats, and you can actually deploy onto it, unlike the shuttle. So
Yes.
I do think it probably goes in Kazuda. I don't think it's like a major upgrade. I think it's like fine. Kazuda's got a ton of turn one plays this set, so there's lots of things you could include. I don't know if it goes in any other deck. It might do, honestly. Like there might be some other decks because the downside is really
I was
quite
thinking the
low.
downsides, like I don't think it really matters.
No, the very rare situations when that would ever matter. So yeah, I think ultimately, if any deck wants a 2/4 in space, they probably just play this card. So I'd expect it to see played in a few decks here and there.
Yeah, agreed. 2-star card here. Once again, not particularly exciting, but the decks that want it, a 2/4 space unit, that's a good stat line. Or speaking of a certain card, the Regulations Bureaucrat, a 0/5 on the ground, and Action Exhaust a resource. This gets the award for the knobbiest card in the set and the most annoying. My God, this thing is frustrating to play against. I went ahead and just threw 2 stars on him. I think you did too. I mean, if you have the initiative and you plonk this guy down, he can't get ping Tarkin towned, and your opponent has to play off curve until they finally get through 5 health. So really frustrating.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's right. When you're going first, this card is so much better than when you're going second, which I think might end up being its downfall.
Yeah,
Because again, cards that are only good going first, there's very few of them that have ended up seeing play. Again, General Legion Pride, probably the prime example.
yeah,
But yeah, if you can go first with this, it's just slightly awkward because Cunning decks tend to be quite aggressive, and this card doesn't put any pressure on, even though it does make your opponent play off curve.
very true.
So it's not quite as good as I first thought it might be. You can play it in Mothma, which you probably do as well. Worth considering. Could even be a sideboard card that you only bring in when you're going first. I don't know
True.
if that'll end up being the case, but it's a possibility. But yeah, if you're forcing your opponent to play off curve, this card's really annoying. Like I said, the ping Tarkin thing is super relevant. Yeah, so I think the card is strong. I don't know how much play it'll end up seeing because again, I think if this was in blue, it would be so much better because you play it
Oh,
in blue villainy decks,
yeah.
and it would be bonkers.
It'd be like a Dr.
I think that
Pershing.
would. Yeah, I think it would actually be the most annoying card in the game if it was blue. Honestly, I would hate that because if you were playing against control decks and they kept making you play off curve, that would be so frustrating. But yeah, thankfully it's in Cunning, and again, Cunning control decks don't really exist. So
Yeah,
yeah,
agreed.
thankfully it's in that colour. But yeah, a bit like the taxation, it's kind of funny that we're winding our opponents up with bureaucrats. I mean, who doesn't love a good bureaucracy? But yeah, I think
Yeah,
really
people are gonna get really
card.
frustrated when they lose to like their dad in an office job. You know what I mean? Like this is this is. I love Star Wars. It's my favorite franchise. But definitely a two-star card. Very frustrating to play against. But once again, probably the worst color for it. And also, if you don't go first, it kind of sucks. So
Mhm.
the go on, you say that one.
Zenaus. I'm going to
Yep,
say
sure.
Zenaus Shadow Fighter.
Yep,
2 cost 2/2 hidden draft filler trash card.
yep. Trash. Moving on. Citrago Vizago, a 3 cost 3/4 Underworld ground unit. On attack, reveal the top card of your deck. The opponent may pay 1. If they don't, you draw that card. Conditional card draw, underwhelming stats. Relevant tag, but ultimately, I don't like this guy at all. I think he's going to not see any play. 1 star.
Yeah, I think he's just worse than Ezra, really. I think he's a pretty bad card.
Yep. Next, we've got the Ebon Hawk, Cause and Effect, a 3 cost 3/3 space unit. On attack, you may disclose hero and or villain. If you disclose hero, it gets +2 attack, and if you disclose villain, the defender gets -4 attack. I think this is actually a really interesting card. Obviously, a 3/3 for 3 is not the best stats, and it's quite vulnerable to stuff like Blue Leader or -3 effects. So not great there, but a swinging for 5 every turn in a hero deck I think is its main application. 5's a lot of damage early, quite a lot of pressure there. And then the other use for this, I suppose, is if you want to play it in Flip Palpatine, you can do both. But I don't think either of those effects are particularly relevant for that deck because it's like a hard control deck. So I think ultimately this is just a 5/3, a 3/3 raid 2, I suppose, is the better way of looking at this for hero decks. So I gave it 2 stars. It could see some play.
Yeah, I give it 2 as well. It's hard to know if a 5/3 or a 3 cost 3/3 raid 2 is
Yep.
good enough. My instinct is that it might not be good
Yeah,
to
yeah.
consistently play in anything, but I think that a bit like the what was it called, the Light Maker, the
Yeah,
5
yeah.
cost 3/4 raid 4. It's similar to that in a way that it might actually sneak in just because of the amount of damage you can put out. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like this more than
Like it,
Lightmaker personally, just because it comes out so much
yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, obviously, I gave it a star more, but I do think like it looks on paper like, oh, yeah, it's pretty good against Falcon, right? You can trade into it, but at the end of the day, they just kill it before you can attack
Yeah,
it, right? So
you
yeah,
play
I
this
think.
down, they trade with Falcon, and then they can even choose to bring it back to hand or whatever. Like 3 health is just really poor in space on turn 2.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Hide Slicer.
Hired Slicer,
Oh,
3 cost
go for it.
3/4 on attack. Reveal the top 2 cards of a deck, and if you do, you may exhaust the unit that shares a trait with one of those cards. Put those cards at the bottom of the deck in the random order. I mean, how much text is on this card? Did it need all this text for a card
No,
that's terrible?
it just sucks. It might as well just say on attack 1 star.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trash card, and it wasted my breath as well.
Unruly Astromech, a 3 cost 3/2 hidden with when defeated exhaust an enemy unit. Another draft filler here. Nothing exciting in my opinion.
Hmm. Great.
The 4 cost Loan Shark. Wow, more exciting things from Star Wars these days. We got a 2/5 Ambush Raid 1. I mean, probably really, really good in Sealed and Draft, but I don't
Yeah,
think you're playing this in Premiere. There is so much more better things you can be doing.
yeah. We're definitely at the back end of the set here. A lot of these cards are just draft cards.
Yep. Duchess's Investigators. 5 cost 4/4. When played, disclose yellow, and then an opponent discards a card at random. Understated, random discard. Doesn't interest me at all. 1 star.
Agreed. We've got Vel Sartha, one path, one choice, 5 cost 4/6, raid 2. Each exhausted enemy unit gets -2 while defending. Again, maybe good in draft, but definitely not a constructed card.
No, this sucks, and also the art is terrible for such a cool character. I do not know what that looks like a porcelain doll. Terrible art.
That is the most James Bond of,
James Bond
of
award.
the
Thank
cards.
you, thank you, Al. We haven't had a random award in a while.
Oh, Mission
Uh,
Impossible. I regret it.
Oh,
Mission
okay.
Impossible. There
No,
we
take
go.
it back. Take it back. We got the 7 cost ground unit, another legendary Sonara-san harboring a secret. 7/7 underworld with hidden on attack for each friendly unit. Ready a friendly resource. Wow, this is awful.
The
I
most
just
boring legendary of the set.
that is not a legendary effect. That is just so boring. Um, I think we should have given this another award for just can I forget this card exists, and when I pull it from my pack, I'll be really, really sad. Award, 1 star.
Yep.
The 2 cost sneaking suspicion. Plot for +1/+1 for the cost of 2. I think this is also a really bad plot card. I
Yeah.
mean, giving +3 attack or +3 health feels so much more relevant than +1/+1. Probably in the bottom 2 or 3 plot cards in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Next, we've got special modifications. 2 cost +1/+3. Attach only to a vehicle unit. It's an upgrade. And if attached unit is a transport, you can create a spy token. Again, you just don't want to be spending your resources doing this. Not a good card.
No, +1/+3 also feels really irrelevant. Like I'd rather have
Yeah.
+2/+2. Just that feels incredibly irrelevant at 1 star. Accelerate our plans. Newt Gunray's back on another absolutely awful card. Exhaust a friendly unit. If you do attack with another unit, it gets +3 for this attack. I mean, you surprise strike for 1 less, but you have to have another unit as part of the cost. I don't see any use
Yeah,
of this
which
in
you're
my
losing
opinion.
damage for anyway, so it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's true. You're losing damage, so you could essentially say this is +2 if anything, because you're exhausting like a 1 attack unit, 1 star. Catch unawares. Attack a unit. The defender gets -4. This text has never been relevant in the game, and even though this might be like the best one we've had, it still sucks. 1 star.
Yeah, the best thing about this card is that scene in Andor is, like I said, the best
Yes.
episode where they're like taking the vault.
Yeah.
It's
Awesome.
awesome. So.
Yeah. Very cool. Charge with
Charged
espionage.
with espionage, yeah, you can disclose cunning, and if you do look at an opponent's hand and discard a unit from it, these cards have actually ended up being pretty good, and they found a home in like Kazuda because
Yeah.
if there's a critical mass of hand tape that's really good. The problem with charge with espionage is that usually units are the least likely thing you want to
Feels the
discard.
least
You want to
relevant,
get rid of
right?
yeah, you want to get rid of their upgrades, their events, their ways to answer you. So while this card maybe could help Kazuda post rotation have some kind of hand hate, I think the card is so much worse. And having to disclose cunning is actually quite hard. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Agreed.
think the card's trash.
Yeah. Poor card. 1 star. Implicate. Choose a unit. For this phase, it gains Sentinel, and when this unit is attacked, create a spy token. This seems terrible for a rare. You won't even probably see it much in draft and sealed. Giving a unit temporary Sentinel is never really very relevant. 1 star.
No, trash. Krea's Whispers. 2 cost event. Draw 3 cards, then put a card from your hand on the top of your deck and another card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. So you're actually only drawing 1 card. Gets the award for the most Doom-like card this set. I think
Okay.
it's like one of those little Doom labs.
Yeah.
Other than that, it doesn't get any other award though, 'cause it's terrible.
No, terrible. 1 star card. I mean, it feels like a Magic card, and in Magic this would probably cost 1. So
Yeah.
we don't need a cantrip in SWO. Beguile. This is a 3 cost event. Look at opponent's hand, then choose a non-leader unit that costs 6 or less, and return it to its owner's hand. So it's like a waylay, but it's slightly restricted, but you get an additional bit of information. I mean, I don't know what you cost information at. I mean, probably very little in my opinion. We're talking like
Yeah,
less
almost
than,
nothing.
yeah, almost nothing. But not an awful card. I mean, 6 or less, that's probably what you're waylaying anyway most of the time, except against control decks, and even then they probably just replay it and you've already lost at that point. So I think post-rotation we'll probably see this card a lot more, but right now maybe your 1 star rating is more realistic.
Yeah, it can't hit your own units, which sometimes with Waylay gives you a way to lethal
Sometimes
them.
relevant.
Yeah, and again, sometimes you do Waylay things that cost more than 6. That
True, yeah.
comes up. So yeah, I think looking at opponent's hand just isn't worth that. Maybe there's like if you were using the star path and you wanted Waylay, but honestly, like Waylay is a card that's fallen out of favour a lot anyway. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think post rotation is the only place for this card.
agreed. Bog down in
Bog down
procedure.
in
Oh,
procedure.
go on.
Yeah,
You can have
exhaust
this
the
great
unit.
one.
Oh yeah, you can exhaust the unit and you can even disclose cunning, and if you do, exhaust another unit.
Whoa!
Whoa! Exhausting 2 units for 3. Whoa! Yeah, thank goodness this card is bad because honestly, if the meta was dominated by bogging down in procedure, I think that I would want to stop playing this game. So
Yeah,
thank
if you were
goodness that
commentating and you're like having to hype it up, like, oh my god, he played bogged down in procedure, I think you would
he
probably
bogged
quit.
him down.
He
He
got
bogged
straight
him
up, he
down in
got straight bogged.
procedure.
Like, you're gonna quit your job at that point, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Okay, the wrong ride. 3 cost event, exhaust 20 resources with plot. I actually think this is a really strong card. I think when used at the right time, this will really screw your opponent. I mean, 2 resources, you go down an extra resource, but you got to plot it, so it didn't cost the card in hand, and you got to do it immediately when it's relevant. So if you get to use the wrong ride and stop a rival's fall or a Luke Skywalker that would have killed your leader, I think you're going to feel really good about it. So when it's good, I think it's really, really good. And then I think sometimes it's going to be pretty irrelevant. And then I think playing this for 3 when not plotting is one of the worst plot cards in my opinion, unless it feels very relevant on that turn. But I did go ahead and give this a cautious 3 stars as I feel like it could be very relevant.
Yeah, give it 2 myself. I think when I first looked at this card, I would have been closer to 3.
Yeah,
But the more I've sort of played with it and thought about it, the more I've like gone down and down on it because again, it's just an awkward cost. You're obviously you're paying more than your opponent is. You're paying 3 for your opponent to pay 2.
yeah,
Now, obviously, you get to choose the timing in a sense, so that's the point of the card. But yeah, I think if it costed 2, I would have liked it a lot more. You could
yeah.
have played it in Kazuda, you could have played it in lots of different things. But again, 3 on a plot is a it turns out those odd numbers like 3 costing plot is just so
Feels
difficult
terrible,
because
doesn't it?
yeah, like you can't slot it alongside a 3 drop in a 5 deploy leader. You can't slot it alongside a 2 drop, 2 cost card and a 4 deploy leader. It just ends up being a bit too awkward. So
Agreed.
yeah, not a huge fan of the card. I much prefer the trade route taxation, which just
Yeah.
stops your opponent playing the events completely.
And also feels good to play just for 2 sometimes as well. Whereas this, I think, if you just play like, especially if you waste a top deck on this, it doesn't do anything really. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you are probably more correct on that one. We've got a 3 cost event, the Undercover Operation. Ready a unit that's played this phase. If it costs 3 or less, create a spy. Chaff alert, 1 star.
Yeah. No.
Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. We hope you're enjoying all the content recently. So make sure that you throw down a like, a comment and subscribe, and make sure that you join the public Discord, link in the description, to come along and chat with the gang. We're in there all the time and we're happy to have a discussion about anything. So thanks for all the support and we'll see you guys importantly in the next video.